Alright, this is our second lesson that I have put up on video. This lesson will be on quadratic equations, solving and graphing. Alright, remember the first one was on linear equations, this one will be on quadratic. Here we go. So outline the steps first for solving and graphing. We're doing rough graphs, we're not doing like precision graphs. This is just using our information that we can obtain algebraically, and that would be our intercepts. So the first steps would be to find the x and y intercepts. So how do we do that? We set y equal to 0, and you solve for x, and that will give you your x-intercepts. And then you do the opposite. You set the x's to 0, and you solve for y. That will give you the y-intercepts. Okay, so here's a quick little easy example. So we're going to draw a rough graph using the intercepts found. Again, it's going to be rough graph. It's not anything precise, so as long as we're using the information we obtained, it should be accurate. Alright, so our first equation. Example 1, y is equal to x squared. Now, we're going to set the y is equal to 0 to solve for x. So 0 is equal to x squared. Now you want to solve for x, so you have to square root both sides. Square root of 0. When you square root both sides, you need a plus and minus. This is due to the fact that when you square a positive and a negative, you still get a positive. So in order to account for that, we have to show positive and negative here. Alright, so the square root of 0 is 0, positive 0, negative 0, still 0. So we have x is equal to 0. So that was your x-intercept. Now we do the same for y. So we set x equal to 0 to get your y-intercept. Y is equal to 0 squared is equal to 0. So if we look over here to the right, we have a rough graph. Now the x-intercept was 0. The y-intercept was 0. So that means that the graph, the equation, hit x equal to 0 and y is equal to 0. So that's the origin. So again, this is a rough drawing. As long as we understand that this is the intercept. X is equal to 0, y is equal to 0. Okay. Here comes another example. Y is equal to x squared minus 1. Again, set y equal to 0, solve for x. 0 is equal to x squared minus 1. Move the 1 over. 1 is equal to x squared. Again, square root, positive and negative. Again, we stated because of the fact that we have to account for the positive and the negative in the square root. So the answer is x is equal to 1 and negative 1. Same over here, but for y. So x is equal to 0, y is equal to 0 squared minus 1. Well, y is equal to minus 1. So we look over here, this is what the graph will look like. You have your negative 1 here for x, your positive 1, your negative 1 for y. So making sure that it touches the axis at those points, your graph will roughly look like this. Okay? Hope we're kind of understanding the idea here. Here comes another, a little bit more difficult one. Y is equal to x squared plus 5x plus 6. Once again, we'll start with the easy step. We'll set x equal to 0. Y is equal to 0 squared plus 5 times 0 plus 6. 0 plus 5 times 0 is 0. Plus 6 is equal to 6. So y is equal to 6. Now the more difficult part. Set y equal to 0 over here. We use something called the zero product property, and we factor. Alright, FOIL would have already been covered, however we're not covering it in this video. FOIL is first, outer, inner, last, but this is the opposite operation where we're finding the factors of this quadratic. So we have x plus 2 times x plus 3 is equal to 0. Now how do we get this? Well, over here I typed up a little explanation. So in this form, let me move this so we can see what we're talking about. In this form, the 2 and 3 were derived from this method. We're talking about this 2 and this 3, derived from this method. The two numbers add up to the middle, or b term. They must also multiply and equal the last, or c term. What I'm referring to at b and c is the standard form. It's a times x squared plus bx plus c. That's standard form. So over here, a is 1, but you don't see the 1. B is 5. C is 6. So the two numbers, being 2 and 3, must add up to b, which is 5, and multiply to c, which is 6. Both 2 and 3 add up to 5 and multiply to 6. They are then put in the form, in the parentheses, x plus 2 times x plus 3 is equal to 0. From here, we use zero product property. A times b is equal to 0. That's a zero product property. So a is equal to 0 and b is equal to 0. So you set a and b equal to 0. So you set each of these equal to 0. X plus 2 is equal to 0. X plus 3 is equal to 0. You solve for x. X is equal to negative 2 and negative 3. So we have over here our y-intercept, and we have our x-intercepts. So a rough draft of the graph, we have your y-intercept up here at 6, and your x-intercepts on the negative side of the axis, negative 2 and negative 3. So your graph would look like this. All right, again, these are rough drawings of the graph. So what I want you to take away from this is the way we arrived at these two numbers, x plus 2 and x plus 3 is equal to 0. We have to remember that they have to add to the middle term and multiply to the c term. So it's b and c. Alright, that's very important. It's the only way that we're able to figure out this here. And FOIL, as I was referring to before, that's a quick little review for the students who have already taken that lesson. FOIL is first, outer, inner, last. So you multiply the first, x times x is x squared, outer, plus 3x, inner, plus 2x, last, plus 6. 3x plus 2x is 5x, plus 6. Remember the 6, so 2 times 3.